Where do wasps like to get lunch? A bistro. Today, I'm going to recap a 2014 action crime film called We Still Kill the Old Way. A quick warning, there will be major spoilers ahead. The movie begins by showing a middle-aged man named Richie and a retired mafia leader doing shooting training. He is a British citizen living in Spain to spend his retirement. As a retired mafia leader, Richie is certainly not an ordinary person. Moreover, he lives in a luxurious house that clearly shows his wealth. That afternoon, Richie and his daughter, Carmen, were having lunch, and he revealed that he missed his older brother, Charlie, who lives in England. The scene then switches and shows Charlie talking about Richie in the past with some of his friends. At the same time, he receives a phone call from Richie from Spain. Through conversations on the phone, the siblings expressed their longing for each other. After he received a call from Richie, Charlie rejoined his friends. At the same time, a woman named Lizzy, Richie's friend, approaches Charlie to ask for Richie's number because she has been interested in him for a long time. Knowing that she is the right person for Richie, Charlie finally agrees to be a matchmaker and gives his phone number. Elsewhere, a couple, Aaron and Lauren, are walking on a deserted street in London. Aaron, a gang leader, turns out to be trying to trap his girlfriend, Lauren, by taking her to a gang of gangsters in a narrow alley. In that narrow alley, she is harassed, and they even record their actions on purpose. One of the gangsters, Dean, tries to stop his friends from harassing Lauren, but he is prevented by Aaron until Charlie finally comes to the place because he hears a commotion behind the bar. Charlie saw the gangsters were about to harass a woman, then asked Lauren to leave and scolded the group. However, they insulted Charlie instead, so he hit one of them. Aaron is offended by his actions and orders him to gang him to death. Not long after, Lizzy, who had just come out of the bar to look for Charlie, was very surprised to see her friend, Charlie, had died in an alley near the bar. That same night, Lizzy reported this incident to two detectives, Susan Taylor and John. Unfortunately, the two detectives could not make arrests on Aaron and his gang due to a lack of evidence. Moreover, Lizzy did not see the incident directly and only saw the gangster group coming out of the small alley where Charlie was found dead. After that, she told Richie about Charlie's death. Hearing that, he looks devastated and plans to return to England. The scene then continues and shows the police detectives, Susan and John, who approach Aaron and his gang and threaten that they will arrest Aaron and his gang and put them in jail if they are convicted of killing Charlie. However, Aaron seemed to deny the accusations and chose to leave. After the two detectives left, he asked his friends to silence Lauren, who was harassed because she witnessed their attack. Dean, knowing of the plan, secretly goes to her house and tells her that Aaron is coming to threaten her. Dean also reminded her to stay indoors for her safety. After that, Aaron and several gang members arrived in front of Lauren's house. Through the housemail hole, he forces her to remain silent and not tell the police about the events that killed Charlie. He also threatened to kill her and her mother. Elsewhere, Richie had arrived in England and immediately met Roy, one of his people. Richie then came to Lizzy's place to ask about what had happened to Charlie. Lizzy said she didn't see the incident firsthand. However, she believes the perpetrators who killed Charlie were gangsters who often caused trouble in London. After that, Richie and Roy went to the crime scene where Charlie was killed. At the same time, they met Susan and John, who were investigating the incident. Knowing that Richie was the most respected former mafia leader in the past, Susan requested that the case be handed over to the police. However, he certainly didn't want to turn over the case of his brother's death to the police. But in front of them, he agreed to give the case to the police before he left the place. At night in the bar, Lizzy informed Richie that she found a video of Aaron and his gang harassing Lauren. She believes that the video is related to Charlie's death. Lizzy, who knew Lauren, then gave Richie the address of Lauren's workplace. After that, Richie asked Lauren about the events that killed his brother. Lauren, who feels indebted to Charlie, finally tells him the details of the incident in a quiet place around her workplace. She tells Richie that the mastermind behind Charlie's murder is the local gang led by Aaron. However, unbeknownst to them both, DK, a girl who is a member of Aaron's gang, sees her, who is telling others about what they did to Charlie. DK returns to headquarters and tells Aaron that Lauren told a man named Richie about the incident. Aaron, who thought Richie was just an ordinary middle-aged man, looked relaxed and didn't really care about it. The scene then switches and shows Richie and his mafia colleagues in the past who are gathered at Charlie's funeral. Not long after, an old man named Arthur arrived at the place. Soon after, Richie joked by telling Arthur to leave because he was too old to hang out with them. Hearing his words, Arthur got angry and told Richie that he was the only person who almost beat Richie. Because of that joke, Richie and everyone else laughed. Afterward, he thanked Arthur that now his friends had gathered. After the funeral, Richie meets his acquaintance, a retired police commissioner named Jack, who lives in a simple house. He asks Jack to help him find information about Aaron and his gang there. If Jack is willing to help, Richie promises to give Jack some of his possessions to him so he can live a better life in his retirement. A few days later, Jack handed over information about some gangster members. Unfortunately, he found no information regarding Aaron, the group's leader. From this information, Richie asked his friends to kidnap 2 gang members, Leroy and Ed. Seeing that the perpetrators who kidnapped them were a group of old people, Leroy and Ed ignored Richie, asking about Aaron's whereabouts. On the other hand, they insulted Richie and his friends. They even did not hesitate to threaten Richie and his friends. Seeing this, Richie and his friends just laughed because the 2 young people they kidnapped didn't seem to know their true identities in the past. Hearing Ed insulting Charlie, he began to lose his temper. After Arthur heard Richie's orders, he began to take nails and hammers from his bag. Without hesitation, Arthur stuck the nail into the back of Ed's hand. It didn't stop there. He took out a drill machine and started drilling Ed's feet. Leroy, who saw his friend being tortured like that, suddenly felt panic. Not wanting to be tortured like his friends, Leroy is willing to help Richie and says he will lure Aaron out of his hiding place. Richie's friends obviously don't believe his words, but Richie unexpectedly agrees to his offer and sets him free. After Leroy is free, he suddenly reaches for a gun to shoot Richie. Before he pulled the trigger of his gun, Richie swiftly shot Leroy to death. Richie said that he didn't trust Leroy either. He just didn't want to kill someone helpless. Then they all laughed again. Shortly after, when they are about to interrogate Ed, without realizing it, he dies because of their torture. Elsewhere, Aaron looks annoyed that 2 of his members have just disappeared. He thought the 2 members had been attacked by his gangster enemy. The next day, Richie returns to Lauren to help her find the rest of Aaron's gang. She tells Richie that one of the gang members named JB used to be in the parking lot. Feeling guilty for continuing to see Lauren, he finally asked for her phone number. Unfortunately, before Lauren could give him her number, Susan, the detective, came and tried to protect her. Susan, who turns out to be her mother, asked Richie not to involve her daughter. The next scene switches to a parking lot. JB, who saw Arthur in the parking lot alone, thought he was a weak old man, so he tried to bully Arthur. However, after Arthur took out a sword, JB, who was riding a bicycle, immediately pedaled away. Before he knew it, a car had stopped in front of him, so JB fell. The car is apparently driven by Richie's friends, and Arthur's presence in the parking lot is a trap to trap him. JB, kidnapped by Richie and his friends, is seen tied and hanged in an abandoned building. Richie again asked about Aaron's whereabouts. Unfortunately, JB, who belittles them all, refuses to divulge any information about Aaron and his gang. He even mocked Charlie in front of them by saying that Charlie looked like a stupid dog when they beat him to death. Hearing that, Richie felt furious, so he beat JB to death. Unfortunately, because of this, Richie's illness recurred and he had to be hospitalized. He needs treatment, then devises a plan to lure Aaron out of his hiding place. A few days later, it was seen that Aaron and his gang were preparing weapons to deal with attacks from enemy gangs. However, suddenly Lauren came to the headquarters to meet him. She tells him that all of his missing gang members have been kidnapped and killed by Richie. She also said that Richie was currently lying in the hospital. In the middle of their conversation, Lauren got a call from her mother. Aaron told her to take the call so Susan wouldn't be suspicious of her. After Lauren tells Aaron everything, together with his gang members, he comes to the hospital and takes her hostage. He orders his members to scatter to find Richie's room. Not long after, 2 gang members found Richie's room and shot at the bed, thinking Richie was lying there. However, unbeknownst to them, Richie and friends appeared behind them and opened fire on them. Aaron, who was in the elevator, heard the gunshots and immediately realized Richie had figured out his plan. Suspicious, he finally checks Lauren's phone and discovers that Lauren and Richie had planned to frame him and his gang. Knowing that Lauren had set him up, Aaron felt angry and planned to kill her. Fortunately, Dean just got there to help her and push Aaron to the ground. After that, there was a fierce firefight between Richie's group and Aaron's gang. Lauren, who realized that the situation was getting out of control, immediately contacted Susan to rush to the hospital. On the other hand, Richie's group had managed to kill Aaron's gang members one by one. Unfortunately, one of Richie's members was shot in hand and immediately received treatment at the hospital. Shortly after, Dean tries to save Lauren and takes her away from the hospital. However, Aaron discovers this, so he takes her hostage to let Richie come out to meet him. After that, Richie and his friends came out of hiding and found Aaron ready to shoot. From behind, Dean managed to thwart Aaron's plan so that his gun bounced toward Richie. Richie immediately grabbed the gun, but he was having difficulty getting the bullets in, so Aaron was in front of him, pointing another gun at him. However, Aaron's gun had run out of ammo, so he couldn't kill Richie. At the same time, Susan and several members of the police had come to the place and immediately shot Aaron because he was considered a danger to Richie. After the incident, Richie was seen lying in a hospital bed. Susan also came to thank him for saving her daughter. A few days later, Richie threw a big party at the club. At that place, he meets Lizzy and reveals that she has an interest in him. However, when he asks her to stay in Spain, Lizzy refuses because she does not want to leave England. At the film's end, Richie's friends look sad because of his departure to Spain, especially after they struggle to avenge Charlie's death. But then Richie unexpectedly appeared behind his friends, who thought he had flown back to Spain in his private helicopter. He told his friends he chose to stay in England to live with them. At the end of the film, Richie and his friends are shown who are preparing to crush the crime in London as a form of atonement for their past sins. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. You should watch the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more video like this.